If you speak, the man across the table said, his voice low and cold, BTS is finished. Not just you two, all of them. The air in the conference room felt heavier than the gray walls surrounding it. Fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead, but even their sterile brightness couldn't pierce the shadow between the three men sitting opposite Jungkook and Jimin. Jungkook's hands were clenched into fists under the table, his nails pressing into his palms, so hard he thought they might draw blood. Jimin's gaze was fixed on the half-full glass of water in front of him, watching the tiny ripples tremble with each thump of his racing heart. The man who spoke was Park Sung-jin, HYBE's senior executive of global strategy. His eyes, sharp and unblinking, moved between them like a blade. You think you're ready for the truth to come out? You have no idea what it will do. Not just to you, but to Namjoon, Yoongi, Hoseok, Taeyoung-jin. Everyone. The truth is not a weapon, Jungkook said, his voice low but shaking with restrained anger. It is a weapon, Sung-jin cut in sharply. And right now, you're aiming it at your own brothers. Jimin's fingers tightened around the glass, but he didn't lift his head. He could feel Jungkook's tension beside him, the silent demand for courage. But the fear was louder. Fear not for himself, but for the others. Another executive, Kim Yeon-woo, leaned forward, his tie slightly loosened but his expression as severe as ever. The moment this gets out, there will be lawsuits from 3 different countries. Contracts worth billions of won will vanish overnight. And you will have destroyed a legacy that took more than a decade to build. Maybe it's time people know the price of that legacy. Jungkook shot back. Yeon-woo's lips curled into something between a smirk and a warning. You think the fans will thank you? They'll call you traitors. They'll burn everything you've ever made. And it won't stop there. You'll see them turn on each other. Army will fracture. Do you want that on your conscience? The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Somewhere in the distance, faint through the soundproof walls, they could hear the muted beat of music from a practice room. It was a cruel reminder of the world outside this small battlefield. Jimin's mind drifted, not willingly, back to the first time he and Jungkook had stumbled upon the truth. It was 2 years ago, late at night, when the company's headquarters were nearly empty. Jungkook had been searching for an old demo file in the archives when he found a folder mislabeled with an innocuous title. Inside, hidden among music drafts, were documents that didn't belong to them, legal agreements, private communications, and photographs. At first, they hadn't understood what they were looking at. It took days of piecing it together, cross-referencing with things they remembered from the early years. Then the realization had hit them like a blow. There were parts of BTS's history, the real history, that had been erased, rewritten, and sold to the world as something cleaner, brighter, safer. And some of it was ugly. Ugly in ways that didn't just stain the company's image, but could shatter the trust of millions. Jungkook had been the one to say it first. We can't keep this to ourselves. Back then, Jimin had hesitated. He thought about the fans who found comfort in their music, the kids who saw BTS as proof that dreams could survive. Wouldn't the truth crush them? But as time went on, the weight of silence became its own kind of poison. Now, here they were, sitting in a sterile room with 3 men who held their careers in their hands, being told in no uncertain terms to shut their mouths. You're making a mistake, Sung-jin said finally, pushing a thick envelope across the table toward them. This is your new addendum. Sign it, and we can pretend this conversation never happened. Jungkook didn't touch it, and if we don't, the third man, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. His voice was calm, almost gentle, which made his words land even harder. Then BTS is over, and it will be your names in every headline as the ones who killed it. A long, suffocating pause followed. Jimin glanced at Jungkook. In the younger man's eyes, he saw the same thing he felt in his own chest. Not fear, but fury. We'll think about it, Jimin said, his voice so soft it barely carried. You don't have long, Sung-jin replied. The world moves fast, and so does the truth. Make sure you're not standing in its way when it comes for you. They left the room without another word. The hallway outside felt colder, the polished floors too clean, too silent. Jungkook exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair. We can't let them scare us into silence. Jimin swallowed hard. They're not just scaring us. They're threatening everyone. Exactly, Jungkook said, his voice low and dangerous. And I'm done letting them win. What neither of them noticed was the faint click of a door closing down the hall, or the shadow that slipped quietly away. Someone had heard enough to know trouble was coming. The shadow that had slipped away from the hallway didn't waste time. By the time Jungkook and Jimin made it back to their apartments, a voice note had already been sent through an encrypted chat group used by a small but powerful circle of industry insiders. The audio wasn't clear enough to be used publicly, not yet, but it was enough to ignite whispers. Within 24 hours, strange posts began appearing on underground forums, especially those frequented by veteran K-pop followers. Two members of the biggest boy band in the world in conflict with their label, one post read, something about an erased history, a hidden scandal. Most dismissed it as fiction, others didn't. Meanwhile, inside HYBE's glass and steel fortress, the mood had shifted from controlled tension to full-scale alert. The PR department was working around the clock, monitoring keywords, flagging anything remotely suspicious. Every meeting room was booked. Every conversation ended in hushed tones. The executives had given a single order: contain this before it mutates. But outside their reach, something was mutating already. Jungkook sat at his kitchen table, phone in hand, scrolling through his private messages. A friend from another label had texted him. What's going on? People are talking. It's getting weird. Jimin was already on a video call with him, his expression tight. They know Kook. Not everything, but enough to start looking. We don't have time, Jungkook said. If they dig deep enough, they'll find it anyway. And when they do, it won't be our version of the truth, it'll be theirs. Ours could still destroy everyone, Jimin reminded him, his voice heavy. HYBE isn't bluffing. You know what's in those contracts. You've seen the names. Jungkook's jaw clenched. And you've seen the lies. That night, they met in a small, dimly lit cafe on the outskirts of Seoul, the kind of place where the staff didn't care who you were as long as you paid cash. They sat in a corner booth, hoods pulled low over their faces, speaking in low tones. If we go public, Jimin said, there's no coming back. No more stages, no more albums, no more BTS as we know it. Maybe that's the price, Jungkook replied. Maybe the truth is worth more than the music. Jimin didn't answer right away. He looked out the window, watching raindrops slide down the glass, blurring the neon lights outside. You think the others will forgive us? Jungkook didn't hesitate. Not at first. Maybe never. But one day they'll understand. Unbeknownst to them, a camera lens had just clicked from across the street. A shadow moved away quickly, blending into the rain-soaked night. By morning, blurry photos of two hooded men in a secret meeting were plastered across social media. Most people couldn't tell who they were, but some fans recognized their silhouettes instantly. Hashtags exploded. Speculation ran wild. Some said it was a casual hangout. Others claimed it was part of a growing rebellion against the company. Within hours, international media picked it up, calling it mysterious unrest within the world's most successful boy band. HYBE responded with a short, clinical statement. All members are committed to their group activities. Any rumors suggesting otherwise are unfounded. It only made things worse. Behind closed doors, the executives were furious. They're feeding the fire, Songjin said in an emergency meeting. The more they're seen together in secret, the harder it is to control the narrative. Then separate them, Yeonwoo said coldly. Different schedules, different continents if we have to. The plan went into motion immediately. Jungkook was assigned a last-minute solo promotion in Japan. Jimin was booked for a series of appearances in Europe. The official explanation was expanding individual artistry, but the truth was simpler: divide and weaken. But they underestimated the resolve of two men who had already decided that silence was no longer an option. The night before Jungkook's flight, Jimin showed up at his door with a small USB drive. This is everything, he said quietly. Documents, photos, voice recordings. Enough to prove every word. Jungkook stared at it. If we send this, it's not about sending it, Jimin interrupted. It's about having it ready. If something happens to either of us, the truth won't die with us. The weight of the drive in Jungkook's palm felt heavier than anything he'd ever held. He looked up at Jimin, seeing the same determination and fear reflected back at him. The next day, They boarded separate flights, each carrying a piece of the truth in their pockets. The world kept spinning, the music kept playing, but somewhere beneath the glitter and the lights, a countdown had begun. And when it hit 0, there would be no going back.